Welcome to St. Matthew Church, and I am Bishop Peter Elder Hickman. I am the pastor of St. Matthew's community, and I have the privilege today to be here with our good friend and our sister, Patricia McELROY, affectionately referred to often as simply Pat. Pat, I'm glad you could be with me here today to talk about your experience in your life, and you came to St. Matthew's back, I recall, in 1992.
Was it then? I was trying to remember myself how long it's been. Yes.
So it's been over 20 years ago that you first walked through the doors of our community. And so I think it would be important for people to learn a little bit about your background. And so what was your background? Where did you come from? What planet did you arrive from?
That's right, yes, yes.
And
well, I was born and raised in northeastern Ohio, and I, at a very early age, felt a calling to serve in a church environment. And graduated from high school and decided that I was being called to religious life. And for about 3 years, I was a part of the Ursuline Order in Canfield, Ohio. And I soon realized that I had a problem with somebody telling me how I was going to live my life.
oh, yes.
And so I decided that maybe that wasn't exactly the calling that I was going for, but I finished my degree. And I was fortunate enough to get a degree in education and in theology and in psychology. And eventually went to work in a mental health field where I met my husband.
Oh,
my soon-to-be husband.
your soon-to-be husband.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so that added a little complication.
Oh, it did, yes.
For you wanting to continue on in a religious life that
Yes.
required celibacy.
Yes.
So you were what they would call a cradle Catholic.
Absolutely.
Grew up in the Roman Catholic
Absolutely.
Church, and a great love for your faith.
Absolutely.
Then you tried to live in one of the religious
Yes.
communities of the Roman Catholic Church,
Yes.
but that was too restrictive and wasn't a good fit to the inner call that you were feeling. Then, after you got your education, you met David.
Yes.
David
Yes.
McElroy.
My other half.
Your other half.
Mhm.
And then, not long after that, you were married.
Yes, we were married, and very soon after that, we came out to California for a visit, fell in love with it, and we were very blessed. We were both able to move out here with our jobs, and we created a life out here.
And so you made the California Here I Come claim. You
I did.
responded to the
I
great
was
call
one
of the
of
West
those.
Coast.
You got it, exactly.
And so you settled in Orange County.
Yes.
And then, and not long after that, you got a job in Orange County working for the Diocese of Orange.
That's correct. I worked for 17 years at St. Barbara's in Orange as an administrator, parish administrator. And it was eye-opening, it was challenging, it was wonderful. I enjoyed it, I loved it. But how can I say this? Sometimes you are given an opportunity to see the wizard that's behind the curtain.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes what you see is not always what you were hoping to see, and I found myself in a position that I began searching for another community. It wasn't fulfilling the needs that I found I had in a church community.
So being employed by a parish community in the Roman Catholic Church gave you put you in an interesting position.
Yes.
You were able also to see the shadow side of the church, and so even though you were continuing your job as a parish administrator, you were longing for another kind of
That's correct.
community life within the Catholic context.
Correct.
And so in the midst of that, you came to St. Matthew
Yes.
Church.
Yes.
And so what was it about St. Matthew Church, which is a Catholic community that's not Roman?
Right.
What was the attraction to St. Matthew?
I think probably the openness and how welcoming it was. And obviously I was attracted to the fact that that there, as I say, it was welcoming. You allowed people who were divorced, which the Roman Church did not, and it was nurturing. It was nurturing. But I must say, for years I passed the Church of St. Matthew's.
Yes.
On the freeway.
Yes.
And I would see this old Catholic church sign,
Right.
and I would think Gregorian chant, the Latin Mass, and I thought, I don't want anything to do with that.
Oh.
But then a friend of mine shared her experience of calling St. Matthew's to find out information about her daughter's wedding. And when she shared with me what was said to her, it was like, where is this place at? I have to find it. And as you well know, we walked in one Sunday and never left.
That's right. I do remember the day that you walked in with your husband David and your son,
My
Colin.
little boy.
Yeah, he was a little boy back in those days.
Yes. And I remember the first Sunday, you asked him to bring up the gifts.
Oh, I did?
Yes, 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 yes.
Well,
Yes.
hopefully that wasn't too hard for him.
It was wonderful.
For him, it was a good thing.
It was,
Yeah.
yes.
Oh, that's great. And I remember a few years later, your husband and your son became altar servers
Yes.
at St. Matthew's. I'll never forget those days.
Yes, yes,
Of
yes.
sharing that experience with them at the altar.
Yeah, yes, yes. Yes.
Well, and then while you were at St. Matthew's, because of your background as a parish administrator, we did not have a parish council at that time, even though the constitution of our parish community called for one. We didn't have, in fact, did not have one. And so I turned to you, you remember, and
I do.
And I requested that you would organize and create a parish council for
Yes,
us.
yes.
Which you did.
I did. And it was a joy because we had, I like to think, a very unique group of people, as you always do at St.
Yeah.
Matthew's. St. Matthew's attracts wonderful people. But it seemed as though God allowed people that we needed at the time to be there. And it was a pleasure, and I look back on those days and I think of Sharon Venezia,
Yes.
who's no longer with us.
Yes.
And Don Grimmett, who's no longer with us.
Yes.
And they were such blessings to the community, and they were exactly what we needed at the time that St. Matthew's was beginning to grow.
And that was in 1995, which was just about 2.5 years after you started coming to St. Matthew's. You became very involved. And I remember as the pastor of that community that I would often be on the phone with you several times a week, that you were working down at St. Barbara's.
Yes.
You were a great person to consult with. As St. Matthew's was a newer community beginning to grow, I would often say, well, Pat, what should I do here? So you became a wise counselor to me. Oh, very much so. In fact, I think the Holy Spirit, in distributing her gifts to the people of God, certainly gave you the gift of wisdom and counsel. And that was very helpful. And when you were here, because of your efforts along with everyone else, our parish really began to grow. And we were able, through your leadership and the efforts of others, to purchase a home.
Yes.
Because at that time, when you first came to St. Matthew's, we were leasing a place, and then you were very instrumental in the purchase and in the remodeling of our facility to make it into a sacred space. And boy, you did a good job, Pat.
Well, thank you, thank you. It was a joy, it really was. And as you say, we had a lot of good people that were supportive of that process.
Now, one of the things that happened was during the time you were here, I was elected and then ordained a bishop. And that's,
Reluctantly.
Yeah, that's true. Reluctantly, and yet it opened doors to marvelous opportunity because it really became apparent to me in the time that we shared together that the call of the Holy Spirit on your life to be an ordained minister was quite apparent. And the whole community agreed with that. And so this is back to your call. What happened? What happened?
Well, you know, as you say, we shared a lot, and as time went by, I began to realize that what I was doing wasn't enough, and I realized that with this community, the possibility was there for me to become an ordained deacon.
Yeah.
And I mean, coming from the Roman experience, that was something I never considered. And so I think it was because of seeing a need in the people, but also my heart was drawn to it.
And so was the hearts of the community. And I remember the day that I celebrated your ordination. And Patricia McELROY is the very first woman that I've had the honor and the privilege of ordaining in the Catholic ministry. And so that was quite a historical moment for all of us, not only at St. Matthew's, but it would have effects on the growth of the women's ordination movement, not only in the United States and throughout the world. And so, Pat, you were really breaking new ground for all of us. Who knew? Who had any idea where those things would lead? As a result of being ordained a deacon, you had a much more active participation in our liturgy. You proclaimed the gospel, you preached, you officiated at weddings and baptisms, and so your ministry was flourishing, but then you were still employed as a parish administrator at St. Barbara's Roman Catholic Church. What happened with that job after you were ordained?
Well, you know, there was a change of leadership at the parish. The pastor that I had when all of this was happening had no problem with my doing what I did. However, the new pastor that came in was not of like mind. And when he found out that I had invited some of the parishioner from St. Barbara's to be at my ordination, he, shall we say, turned me in to the diocesan Gestapo, and the rest is history. I was asked to leave, and so I went back to my home of St. Matthew's, and I was fortunate enough for a while to be able to help St. Matthew's as an administrator.
That's right, because and that shows you the marvelous way in which God works.
Yes.
You took a step of faith, you took a risk to be ordained as a Catholic woman, knowing that the possibility is it could threaten your job. And of course, as to no one's surprise, you did lose your job. One door closed, but another door opened.
Yes.
And St. Matthew's was able to hire you as our parish administrator, in which you were able to do marvelous work in helping St. Matthew's to continue and grow, and also purchase their own home. So
Yes.
it was quite an achievement.
Yes.
And you've made a difference for St. Matthew's. You are a part of our story. You're a part of our narrative, our history. And anyone who comes to St. Matthew's now owes you a tremendous debt of gratitude for what you were willing to do to make this place the place that it is today.
Well, so much more goes back to St. Matthew's from my heart to it, because it helped me to learn who I really was. And it gave me the strength to be able to move on, and to now, we've moved back 11 years now to northeastern Ohio, outside of Cleveland, on a 102-acre farm, and the blessings continue. So it's been a journey of discovery for everyone,
Well,
me most especially.
Well, I think for all of us, and we've learned a lot of lessons over the years, and we miss you deeply here at St. Matthew's, Pat, and we love you, and as I know that you love me and the community of St. Matthew's, and we are still co-workers in the gospel work of Jesus in our world.
Amen.
So thank you so much. This is Deacon Patricia McELROY, who now lives in Ohio, but still is very much a part of the faith community of St. Matthew Ecumenical Catholic Church.